Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our virtual alumni workshop on using AI in career exploration and the job search process. Before we begin, we're going to take a moment to pause so that everyone has a chance to log on. While we wait, feel free to type your name, grad year if you're an alum, and what brought you here today in the chat box, and we will begin momentarily. Well, my name is Ethan Bergman, and I'm from the University of Minnesota Duluth Alumni Relations team. Today's Alumni Career Workshop is brought to you in partnership with our office and the UMD Career Center. Today, you will learn how companies and recruiters are using AI to search for qualified candidates and what you can do to ensure that you are using AI to your advantage. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Alumni Relations YouTube channel. So once it's been uploaded, you will receive an email with the link once it is ready. Finally, we will have time at the end of the presentation to answer live questions. To submit a question, go ahead and use the question and answer button on the bottom of the screen. Now, to introduce our guests, today we are joined by Sue Holm, Career Development Assistant Director, and Molly Stonesifer, Career Development Specialist at UMD. Sue's passion is to serve students by helping them explore majors, careers, and applying to graduate or professional schools. She is a Gallup certified strengths coach and enjoys working with people to discover their strengths. Molly is committed to empowering students and professionals to achieve their full potential in their chosen careers. With a master's degree in counseling and a background in psychology, her own career journey reflects a commitment to fostering connections, problem solving, and driving impactful outcomes across diverse domains. It is now my pleasure to hand it over to Sue and Molly.
Thank you so much, Ethan. My name's Molly Stonesifer, she, her pronouns. So you just want to say hi before we get started?
Sure. Hello, I'm Sue Holm. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. All right. To start us off then in this conversation about AI, I would just love if you took a moment to just do a little check-in and think about how comfortable you are with AI, how often you use it, how you feel about using it. Because to be honest, just acknowledging like I have really mixed feelings about it. Sometimes I get a little indignant, like I'm an intelligent enough person, I shouldn't have to use AI. And other times I just, feel absolutely exhausted and like I can't think anymore. And those are the times that AI really comes in handy. But really, at the end of the day, like personally, I do feel kind of weird about it. And so if you feel weird about it too, know that you're not alone. These stats just came out last week from Pew Research. So 52% of employed adults feel worried about the use of AI in the workplace. 33% felt overwhelmed about how it would be used, compared to our stats here on hopeful or excited. So just starting us off, having a little check-in that way. In terms of what we're talking about when we say AI, ultimately AI is the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks that are associated with intelligent beings. That's you and me. Traditional AI rather, used or uses data and analyzing that to perform tasks versus like generative AI, which is in so much of the conversations right now, that's creating new content based on learned data patterns. So that's kind of the difference there, like that performing tasks versus that creating of the straight up new content. And AI has actually been developing since the 1950s or even earlier, depending on who you ask. Uh, which I think is very, very interesting. In 1955, there was a workshop at Dartmouth on artificial intelligence, which is considered the first use of the term, and how it came into the public vernacular. Also, just here a very brief history of AI because I think that it's super interesting. And for those of us that are maybe like a little scared of AI, I think that it's interesting to recognize how long it actually has been around. Because the first chatbot was actually created in 1966, which would really have been the first generative AI. Instead of being called a chatbot, though, it was called a chatterbot. So I think that's absolutely adorable, and I'm going to be calling it that from now on. The American Association of Artificial Intelligence was founded in 1979. 1997, IBM's Deep Blue beat the world chess champion, which was the first program to beat a human chess champion. In 2006, companies like Facebook started using AI as part of their advertising and those user experience algorithms. And then in November of 2022, that is when OpenAI publicly released ChatGPT, which was just a huge leap for the use of AI. And suddenly it was that generative AI was suddenly so widely accessible. So that was really when interest in AI increased dramatically and the use of it broadened into like everyday activities across so many different platforms and domains. So essentially, in many ways, like that is what propelled AI into the mainstream and really is what brought us here today. Quick word on platforms here. I mean, AI is embedded everywhere today, right? The more you think about it, the more you see it everywhere from, I mean, your predictive text, digital assistants like Siri or Alexa, surveillance cameras, I mean, to when you're trying to reach customer service on Amazon and are talking to a bot instead. The more you think about it, the more it is just everywhere. And today we will be sharing a few job search specific platforms and also talking about prompt generation for generative AI platforms. Personally, I have the most experience using ChatGPT. And if sometimes when I use the phrase, I'm using it more broadly, but not necessarily promoting anything over the other. Copilot is the platform that the U of M supports. It maybe excels more so with productivity tasks. Bard or Gemini are going to be a little bit more conversational and integrate with that Google search. And then plus you have platforms and websites that all have their own generative AI tools, like LinkedIn, as well. So yes, just wanted to kind of give that stipulation that we're talking about different platforms, but not necessarily promoting promoting one over the other.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk here a little bit about the pros and cons. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but it's just a few things to kind of keep in mind. And some of the pros, and there certainly could be more than these, super efficient, speed and efficiency, right? You ask it a question, boom, 2 seconds later, you get this whole list of whatever it is that you're trying to address. It's also super accessible. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning when you wake up and you've got a question or you're curious about something or you can't sleep and you pull it up, it is accessible 24/7. I also really like it for the idea generation piece of it when working with students and alumni and people that I work with. It's a really great way to kind of come up with some ideas if you're stuck on certain things. On the con side of things, again, there's a few of those. So, Molly, if you can go to the con piece of this. Yeah, it's got some bias in it, right? So we have to be a little bit careful in terms of the information that it's sharing with us. There's a little bit of inaccuracy. I will say with things like ChatGPT, the free version is pulls data that's a little bit older. So if you're looking for really current things like wage or salary data or employment stats, things like that, you're going to want to either use the paid version or maybe a different one that might be pulling a little bit more current information. Not a lot of human intuition to it, right? That's the beauty of being able to work with a person one on one, because then we can sort of sort through some of this and move a little bit more into the intuitive things, or yeah, that sounds great, but maybe we could think about it in terms of this or word it this way. So, in terms of sometimes what we're hearing in higher education, there's a little bit of over reliance. We are not advocating for you to use this to write a cover letter or a resume, because it really lacks your human story. It's pulling data that's, rather generic, but then you can use that as inspiration to really tailor it to you. And then the last thing I'll say about the cons is that it really can kind of exaggerate your skills or experience. Again, when we're, working with maybe someone that's got, 3 months of experience, it can use kind of, flowery language saying, I've got extensive experience in XYZ and things like that. So we just want to pay attention to that to be able to tone it down to be more reflective of our actual skills or experience. A couple of more things about the responsible use. Again, we want to edit, we want to verify, just like it's, if you can kind of think about it in terms of, a citation, it's no different than using another source. You want to be able to cite it, or be able to edit and verify wherever it's pulling its data from. We also want to really use specific descriptive prompts, and that's the piece that I think is really the magic of this is, and we're going to be giving you some very specific prompts that you can use, but use your own imagination and be able to tailor it to whatever it is that you're looking to do. You want to protect your privacy. You can go in, I believe it's probably called different things on different platforms, but it's more incognito mode. So, because otherwise, every prompt that you put in, it will, kind of have that in, the public sphere. And so, if you're wanting to do something that's more private, you want to try and search around in it and go a little bit more incognito. And its role is not to replace humans. It's, in 9 times out of 10, it's really to serve as an additional platform where we're going to be able to use it to help us in whatever our situation or our roles are. So again, want to respect copyright, intellectual property, citations. I know that Perplexity is one that does have citations on there too. So just want to kind of pay attention to some of those things. So I'm going to talk the next few slides for me is a little bit on how to use this in career exploration. And again, I just feel like in our roles in the Career Center, we do a lot of career exploration, whether that's with first year, second year students, students who are more juniors, seniors trying to figure out, what careers they want to go into, or for career changers, alumni who are like, either you are looking to transition out of a role that you're in, or you are in a situation where you're in a job search yourself. So it can be super helpful in all of these different areas, job search, career change, kind of figuring out what our next steps are, and also identifying some skills that we might need. Like maybe, I'm thinking I want to transition to XYZ career. What, kind of based on what my skills and experiences are now, what might I need to transfer to this new job or this new role that I might be looking for? So where do you start, right? Again, I want to echo what Molly said. It's a little overwhelming. It seems like everywhere you turn, there's an AI prompt popping up. And so if we're looking at this in terms of the career exploration piece, I I really like to, encourage people to start with, what are my interests, right? Like if I'm trying to either do a career change or I'm trying to just figure out what I want to do, where do I even start? What am I even interested in? And a great way to kind of think about that too is what energizes me. So, what are the things that give me energy? So, again, if you're looking to transition out of your role, if you look at your current role or your current job, what are the things specifically within that job that are energizing to you? What lights you up? What are the things that you want to continue doing in another role? So an example of that would be if I brainstorm what my interests are or what energizes me, you could throw it in the chat and just be like, hey, what are 10 specific career paths or job titles that would be a good fit for me based on my interests of blank and blank? Um, One thing I also just want to share is we have developed a handout that has all of these prompts on here. So don't feel like you have to furiously write what all of these prompts are because we'll be sharing that with you as well. The other thing to take a look at that sometimes we overlook, sometimes we don't, but these can really kind of be really important to us is, again, looking at our values. What is important to me? There's no good or bad, right or wrong here, but maybe one of your values is freedom or flexibility, or you really care about the environment, or you really want to work to help children, or whatever it is. Brainstorm a little bit what your values are in terms of, career search and what the possibilities are. And maybe think about what might be a deal breaker for you, right? Like maybe I don't want to, maybe I'm in this role and I don't want to do this anymore. Or maybe there's a certain, excuse me, company that I want to work for or I don't want to work for. So what is important to you? And again, another prompt would be what careers or roles align with my values of X, Y, and Z, or what companies might align with my values of X and X. The next piece that I like to look at when we're working with people are skills, right? This is an important piece. Again, brainstorm what your skills are. What are some of the skills that you have gotten so far in your career? And then some different prompts in terms of, okay, if I'm looking to switch careers or roles, what careers align with my skills of X and X? I have great skills in Python, or I have great skills in communication, or I have great school, people skills, or I have, whatever the skills are, what careers might align with those, or what jobs align with the skills and experience on my resume. And then you can paste your resume in there. And then if you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought about this one, tell me more about number 4, project management, or whatever one that you might be interested in. Again, you can dial down when you get these responses and to just be like, it's very conversational. Tell me a little bit about this one, or, what do I need to do to develop a career in project management? The other thing is to take a look at our strengths. And I work a lot with Clifton Strengths, which is an assessment that I love. Been working with that for a number of years. So for some of you, maybe you've taken the Clifton Strengths assessment, and you can literally put into whatever AI you want to use. You could say, here are my top 5 Clifton Strengths. What are possible roles or careers that align with my strengths? And again, thinking about it in terms of if you haven't taken Clifton Strengths, it's totally fine. Brainstorm a little bit. Again, what are my strengths? What are the things that I really naturally and easily do well? Maybe I'm super competitive, and maybe that's been really rewarded for me in a sales career. Or maybe I'm really good at developing one-on-one relationships with people. Perhaps you're somebody who really thinks strategically, or you're really good at analyzing things. Maybe you're super disciplined. Maybe you're super focused, or you take things from good to best. Whatever it is, think about it in terms of what do I naturally easily do well? And I will say one of the challenges of this is sometimes it's so naturally who we are that we don't see them as a strength, right? But take a little bit of time to kind of brainstorm some of those. The other thing with regard to strengths is, okay, so now I've got these ideas of strengths. What environments really allow me to bring my best self forward? So again, if you're a career changer, you can kind of look over your career and be like, okay, where have I really been in the best flow for myself? Where have I really brought my best self forward? So maybe that's in Maybe that's in an office environment. Maybe that's out doing field work. Maybe it's, working for a certain agency or organization. Maybe it's working for myself. What environments do you feel like your best self is in? I also like to think about this in terms of, again, brainstorming a list of what do I bring and what do I need. When we kind of look over our job histories or our lives, what do I bring? What can I bring to an employer? And then what are some of the things that I personally need to be successful in whatever role it is? So maybe like I work in, career development. So I bring a lot of experience in career development with career development theory, working with a lot of students. I bring a lot of empathy, a lot of people skills to that. And then what do I need? I need a little bit of time to be able to do some research. I'm also somebody that really likes to I like to learn about a lot of different things. So if somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm that first person to go, oh my gosh, this is great. Let's research it. Right. And so I need a little bit of time to think about things and kind of brainstorm and research through things. So again, an example AI prompt would be what roles or careers align with these strengths of X and X, or you could, like I said, you can throw in your top 5 Clifton strengths if you know those. Now, for career changing in particular, again, we can dive down a little bit deeper. And some example prompts are things like what are job titles or roles similar to whatever your current role is? Because when we look at making career changes, sometimes we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And we're like, okay, I want to go from I am an HR professional and I want to go into civil engineering. So I'm going to have to go back to school to be a civil engineer. I don't want to say well, it's hard. Well, it would be hard for me. I'm not a civil engineer, but that would be a pretty big career change. And if that's what you're interested in and that's where you feel your best life is, go for it, right? And we can help you do that. But sometimes it's a little bit of, the job role that I'm in right now isn't exactly what I want to be doing. So what might be similar to that, where I can take a little bit of a tweak, where I'm experiencing a little bit more, whatever it is that I'm looking for, freedom, flexibility, salary, whatever those things are. Another prompt would be what jobs outside of whatever your industry align with your skills and experiences on my resume. So again, you can paste your whole resume in there, and that's where it kind of pulls from your current resume to take a look at, based on what I've been doing, what are some other options for me? So it's a great way to brainstorm that. You could even throw in a job description for your dream role at XYZ company, right? Like, what are the most frequently mentioned skills or qualifications? So if all of a sudden you're like, boy, my dream job would be to do XYZ, then you can look at, okay, what do I need to do to kind of get there? You're doing like a gap analysis, right? What skills do I need to develop for this role or this career? Again, you can paste your resume in there. You can even take it further and be like, is this field growing or declining in Minnesota, in California, in Puerto Rico, wherever you want to work? And then what is the X salary range for this job? Again, whatever questions that you have about these particular roles or these particular positions, you can throw in there. And I think this is kind of our last, example of the career change ones. But again, maybe you're looking to really switch industries and you're like, you know what? I have been working as a data analyst for my entire career, and now I want to use more of my creativity. I like to do art stuff on the side. Maybe I like to do graphic design, or whatever the case may be. So, what are some career paths for people that have creativity skills and data analysis skills? Or again, throwing in any of those things that you've brainstormed in terms of your interests, skills, values, and strengths. You can use it again for more job postings. Where can I find job postings for entry level, mid level, senior level graphic designers, or whatever your particular field is? And then again, digging a little bit deeper, please generate. I also like to say please and thank you because, when the robots take over the world, I think they'll remember that. But please generate a list of the top 20 employers of X job title in X industry and X location. Again, you can use it to do a little bit more research to kind of help you locate not only what skills and strengths and values do I bring, but then where can I find some of these openings?
All right. In terms of the job search, to start us off, we're going to flip this over and ask, how does HR use AI? Because this is important to you as a job seeker to understand how it's being used on their end. So, um, HR is using AI to write job posts, so do keep that in mind. And maybe during an interview, if something seems off about a job post or job description, rather, asking some clarifying questions about that to keep that in the forefront of your mind, to make sure that the job was accurately advertised. Also, HR uses AI in job hiring when they have large volumes of resumes and applications. So to help screen candidates or identify top candidates based on those job requirements. So those AI algorithms scan the resumes to identify which people have the skills and experiences that most closely match the job description and then filter out those who don't meet the criteria. So it's applicant tracking system, or an ATS. And we've been talking about ATS for years, so that's not new to the job application process, but it is AI powered, and it does automatically sort and rank applicants based on their qualifications to allow HR to identify those candidates. Recruiters, in terms of sourcing candidates, recruiters can use AI to source candidates, such as on LinkedIn. AI is used to find those potential profiles that fit the job description. In terms of LinkedIn, your summary or about section and your headline are considered the most important things to the algorithm in terms of keeping important industry keywords in your summary and in your headline, because that's what the algorithm is going to draw from the most. In terms of skill assessments, also not new to hiring, but AI can administer skills tests or even simulations to assess candidates' abilities for a specific job role, which really is aligning with, we're hearing a lot about skills-based hiring initiatives. So that is definitely in alignment with that. Like some platforms even, like in terms of these simulations, if you're applying for a position at a bank, it will be a simulation where you will be working with a customer and counting out money. And so showing that you do have that skill, not just saying it, but very truly showing that you have that skill. AI-powered interviews, we're going to talk more about that, but some companies are using AI-assisted videos where candidates answer these preset questions, and those are recorded. We'll talk more about that later. Technically, AI should be helping to minimize bias in the hiring process by focusing on those skills and experiences and focusing on that data-driven analysis. But that's something to you can do research on the specific platforms that they're using to read those third-party research to see what biases maybe a certain company might have. All right, in terms of moving into talking about how to improve your application materials with AI, we talked about how recruiters use ATS to filter applications based on the job description. So we're going to start there. For lack of a better term, this is something that I manually do when I look at a job description. I ask myself, what are the most important items? What are the most important skills? What are the top things that this hiring manager wants from this new hire? And I tailor my resume to that, right? Yes, but that's also something that AI does really well. Instead of me manually going through that job description and making those choices, AI is really good at analyzing large amounts of text and giving a synopsis of it. So identifying those core concepts, identifying those keywords. I have this example here. again, Sue, I agree with you. I say thank you a lot to the robots. Thank you. What are the most important things I should talk about on my resume based on this job description, which I had previously posted? And so then it gave me just kind of a more basic rundown of the most important concepts. So just copy and pasting that job description, asking for those key themes or what the key words are from the job description. And then you can analyze your resume with those concepts in mind and ask yourself if you're hitting on what you need, or if you're lacking in certain areas. You could also use it to enhance your bullet points. Notice that I didn't say you could use it to write your bullet points, but it can help to enhance. So I like to say that we should be using generative AI similar to how we use spell check, and not overly relying on it. We will go over some more prompt generation about that in a minute here too. But first, we are going to touch base on cover letters as well. Um, and honestly, for cover letters, like you will see resources out there that will say to use it to generate a first draft. And honestly, you could give it your resume, you could give it your job description or the job description that you're applying for and ask it to write a cover letter for you. But I for one am not going to tell you to do that. Like I said, you will see that advice out there. I would not tell you to do that. From me, we hear over and over again from HR professionals that they can tell when you use AI to fully write your cover letter or your resume. So, and if you use AI like everyone else, you're going to sound like everyone else, right? So, I will say though that it is a good reviewer. So, if you don't have someone to go over your application materials with, um, I'm going to tell you actually, like you do as alumni, have someone to go over your application materials with because our Career Center does continue to work with alumni. So you are absolutely able to set up appointments with one of our career specialists to talk through your job search, and review your documents. So you do have us. But anyway, let's say it's the middle of the night and you just need to hurry up and get these application materials in as soon as possible. Then you can have AI review your cover letter and compare it to the job description, and it will give you feedback on structure and let you know how you're doing well and what you could do better. I love how it tells you what you're doing well. This summary here on the right, this is I gave ChatGPT my cover letter that I used to get this job that I am currently working in right now. So it was very nice and started off with some strengths that I had, but then it went into suggestions for improvement. Said a few of my paragraphs were a little dense. It was a little bit too long. So reading through the suggestions for improvement and kind of using those to make your own choices in terms of how you're presenting yourself. All right, here are a few prompt examples. Like Sue said, we do have a handout with more of these. And remember that the generative AI is only as good as the information you give it. So use just really descriptive and specific prompts to get the most thorough results. The more details you give it, the better. And if you don't like what it gave you, give it more information or give it feedback. I'll say like, oh, thank you, but could you make it more informal? Or could you make it sound more fun? Or anything like that. Any feedback that you have for it, let it know and it'll rewrite it. Or like, oh, thank you, but could you write it again, making sure to really highlight my past leadership roles, something like that. It does well with feedback as well. All right, in terms of more warnings, always edit accordingly. Never copy and paste directly without fully reading through your results and adjusting it, making sure that it is in your voice. It can be the starting point, but it should never be your final product. You can see on the right here, an HR professional had posted this here that someone had clearly used AI to help answer these questions. So the required question was, what excites you about the mission of the Immigrant Family Services Institute? And the person had obviously just copied that question into Gen AI and then copy and pasted the answer because Gen AI answered, as an AI language model, I don't have personal emotions, but I can discuss the potential impact. So definitely edit and not copy and pasting. Also, verify the accuracy of the information. Yes, it has a broad range of knowledge and is continually changing, but it doesn't have that same level of nuanced information that a real live person would. It doesn't have your personal experiences. It can't talk about your personal achievements. It won't be able to share your metrics. It won't be able to differentiate you. It's going to be very generic, unless you're helping to feed it some of those things. Also, overuse, I think, is an extra important topic in terms of job applications because these tools can be helpful resources, but they aren't a substitute for all of that skill building and self-development that comes from like drafting and editing your documents and application materials. Um, I've seen firsthand, like really great resumes and cover letters, but then the person behind them, when they come in front of me for an interview, they aren't able to show me that they have done the self-reflection and self-development to know why they want that job. Going through that process can be that great opportunity to dig deep and really know yourself and your skills and reflect on how you want to communicate those to an employer. So ultimately, I do believe that that whole process of doing it yourself helps you prepare for the interview and have that self-reflection under your belt. Also, your resume and cover letter are a representation of your skills. And so if you overly relied on Gen AI, there's a good chance that as your hiring manager, I am not going to be impressed by your daily work. And I have a great example of this. I was talking to a software engineer recently who does hire junior software engineers, and they are seeing just more and more graduates or recent graduates rather, who have overly relied on AI for coding, and then they are not able to pass the technical component of their interviews. So I thought that was a very interesting. Um, all right, moving into prepping for those interviews. Um, Honestly, like assessments have been used in hiring for 100 years. It's just that now they are getting more efficient and technology driven. 99% of Fortune 500 companies use some form of automated tools as part of their hiring process. I really want to know which companies aren't using any. Um, all right. So there are a lot of platforms out there. Things like predictive talent assessment, which in my opinion is maybe a nice way of saying like a personality test. For that, candidates are answering multiple choice questions, and then the employer gets insights on how they score against whatever the core competencies are for the role. Ideally, this would be used like in alignment or to compare and support the interviewer's evaluation. It shouldn't be used as like an end all be all. Other platforms have like the goal of facilitating better team creation by understanding how individuals' behavioral patterns on a team relate to each other. Or for skill assessment platforms, that could be something like coding or showing how that you know how to handle money, like the example I gave earlier. Or it can be like scenario-based platforms where it's like a role-playing situation. Um, Yes, and then those one-way interviews that I mentioned, we are seeing more of those as part of the interview process. I wouldn't say that that you're getting that instead of an interview with a real person. Typically, one-way interviews are very early on in the hiring process as part of that initial screening, and so actually companies are able to they have that capacity then to reach more people during that initial screening phase because it is more automated. They don't have that struggle of managing multiple people's schedules and availability and all of that. So they can reach more people for those initial screenings. So how these work, it's an on-demand interview. We kind of have a picture of what one looks like here on the right. It's recorded, and you should get a rundown, a clear rundown on the structure. And honestly, some people do like it because you know what to expect. For example, you might be told you'll have 6 questions, you'll have 1 minute to think, and then you'll have 3 minutes to respond. Some of them allow you to re-record, but some don't. And then that AI evaluation analyzes factors like verbal communication, body language, how relevant your content is, and then a transcript of the responses. With a summarizing report of the performance are provided to the recruiter, who then decides if that candidate advances to the next phase of the interview process or not. Or for some platforms, the employer does also have the chance to personally review the videos, or they're able to forward the videos of the top candidates to the hiring manager or something like that. You can look into the company that's being used for the interview platform to look at those third-party reviews, again, to make sure that stereotypes aren't being reinforced by those algorithms. Going into some advice for these one-way interviews, if you do find yourself doing one of these, visiting the specific platform ahead of time that the company is using, because most of those platforms do have useful tips or videos and other candidate resources on how to best use their platform. So look at that well in advance. Um, Next up, practice talking to no one, because having a conversation without another person can feel awkward. So practice responding to questions out loud while looking at your computer or your phone camera, something like that. Review those keywords. We've been talking a lot about keywords, and same thing in these video interviews. Those algorithms are giving you brownie points for using those keywords in your responses. Um, you can also, same as a regular interview, right? Like there are certain questions, obvious questions that, or common rather interview questions, practicing those ahead of time can be great. Making sure you have a great location to do this, somewhere that has good light, a location that doesn't have any distractions, or a loud area, anything like that, or the background behind you being simple or plain, would be ideal. While you're recording, look directly at the camera. Don't look at yourself. Make sure you know where that camera is, and looking directly into that when you're speaking is helps mimic like that eye contact that you would have with the interviewer. It'll help you seem like more present and in the moment. If it is a platform that allows you to re-record your answers, well, learn from your mistakes, watch back that initial response, and notice what could be improved, and take a few minutes to rework those, and then re-record that. And then lastly, the being on camera, or it can drain your energy a little bit. So it is helpful if you can be just a tiny bit more energetic when recording your responses than you would be normally for an in-person interview. If you can just take it up half a notch, that can be helpful. A few platforms that you may want to explore during your job application process. Job Scan, that's the screenshot I have here on the right, that optimizes your resume. It'll scan your resume for the keywords. It'll scan the job listing for keywords, and it'll give you feedback based on that. You can see this one here was getting a score of 87%. It's going to tell you like, oh, you didn't talk about the keywords of community engagement. and you'll say, well, I did, but I did it in a different way, right? So kind of comparing that job description to your resume. Pay scale is a good place to check average salaries for job titles. Similar to yours, they have a job search tool that'll automatically compare your current position to similar positions, and based on like salary or based on location and experience and industry, kind of determine a expected salary. So that can be helpful because it will be up to date. Interviewing IO does mock interviews that are powered by AI. You'll get they'll provide feedback on your on skills and communication during the technical interviews, and then Udly here. So that's an AI speech coach that is that can help you improve your communication skills. So that one is known as like compared to like Grammarly. Grammarly is to writing what Udly is to speaking. So that is a speech coach platform that you might find helpful. And that's actually the screenshot here on the right as well. It'll give you little feedback. It'll say like speed up or you're talking too fast, things like that. When it comes to interviewing, this is actually my favorite area for using Gen AI. It's a great way to do practice interviews, give it the job description, ask for sample interview questions. Because then you have interview questions to practice that align with those top skills from the job description, in addition to those like basic and most common interview questions. You can also have it help you prepare your questions for the end of the interview by assisting you with your research. Ask the platform to give you the top concerns in a certain industry, for example. So you can build your own question from that. My number one interview tip is to do an extensive amount of research on the role, the organization, and the industry. And so AI can be very helpful with that. Like asking, summarize recent trends in blank industry based on news articles from the past year, things like that. And then a platform like Career.io, you can also get feedback. That's another way to practice interviewing or practice those one-way interviews. So either one of those and get feedback that way. All right. Oh, here are some more prompts here. Behavioral interview questions. I'm preparing for an interview for blank. Help me come up with some questions to practice. Here's the job description. Yes. All right. When it comes to my role as a career specialist, my biggest thing through all of this AI talk is actually it's not at all how can we use AI in the job search, but instead it's how can I be a real person in this world of AI? Because resumes are getting more similar. So how can you stand out? Well, you stand out by being a real person, by letting your personality show through, by talking to other real people. I'm trying not to use the word networking, but yeah, I guess I do mean networking. Build your network, your hidden job network. Employers can train skills, but you need to show your mindset. Build your people skills. Find what gives you energy. Learn how to learn and grow and be comfortable in being evaluated. And all of those things are all things that you can do. So I like LinkedIn for this reason. Yes, they have their own embedded AI as well, but I think like LinkedIn is a great way to show how you are a real person and connect with other people. It's professional, but it's also a very personal way to be professional. So at the end of the day, if you want to use AI, it does need to be a collaborative partnership between you and AI. So Gen AI is just a tool to enhance your own career efforts. You still have to do the work. I'm sorry to say, but and honestly, sometimes by the time I write out an extensive, detailed Gen AI prompt, I find myself thinking that that was just like way too much effort, and with that much effort, I should have just wrote the thing myself. It doesn't replace your own unique insights, your own unique skills and experiences. And ultimately, the thing that's makes you stand out in an AI world is your human experience and your ability to relate and empathize with others. So, at the end of the day, like that is my biggest advice in terms of how can you use AI in the job search. That's not my answer. It's how can you be a real person in this world of AI? So, all right, we're gonna move into questions. Here is our email too. I mentioned that alumni can utilize our services, so our email is here as well. So there's that. I'm going to stop the share. We're all going to pop on for questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Sue and Molly, for leading us through this great presentation. So yeah, like Molly said, now is our time for some live questions. Feel free to submit your questions in the chat feature below as well. But yeah, first we'll start with a few questions through our registration form. One of the first questions asks, and I think you both touched on a few of these, but maybe we can get some more information that you would like to share. But which AI tools do you recommend for job search and resume optimization? And Sue and Molly, feel free, either of you can kind of jump on these.
Yeah, in addition to some of the other things that we touched on already, some of those platforms already touched on. Another one that is a little bit newer. I did touch base about LinkedIn, but they do have their own embedded AI, Gen AI, and they are that part of that goal is really to help align your skills and experiences to different industries as well. So I think that they've been doing some interesting things to um, try to help with that. I mean, people on average work in seven different job industries throughout their careers. And so LinkedIn has really taken note of that and is kind of helping make connections across different industries.
Right. A little more broad of a question here now. How should one approach the job market in a new way while still leveraging AI, given the large volume of applications and the role of online networking?
I think Molly said it best where you still want to be a person, right? You still want to kind of try and connect with people on a personal level. So meeting people, going to events where you're going to connect with people in different industries. It kind of depends on, what you're looking for and what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're going to be hired because of your skills, because of your experience, because of the value that you bring to that organization. So any way that you could showcase that, again, through your LinkedIn profile or through joining organizations, or even things like on LinkedIn, if you are a content expert, or you have, the posts that you share or the articles that you write or share with LinkedIn to show that, again, you can bring this value to an organization. That would be one of the ways that I would say. Yeah.
Pe-
Yeah,
People people want to hire people. They don't want to hire resumes or uh, cover letters. They want to hire real people. And so I think anytime you can yes, find ways to connect with those real people through professional organizations in your community or online professional organizations and communities you want to be a part of, or industries that you want to be a part of. If you have something you're interested in doing, I say you got to talk to the people who are doing the thing that you want to do and make those connections.
yeah,
Mhm. One of the things, just FYI, again, what I love about LinkedIn is, so if you go into LinkedIn and just into the search bar, you type in University of Minnesota Duluth, and then you go to the University of Minnesota Duluth page, you click on the alumni. There's, I think, the last time I checked, like 60,000 alumni that are in there. So again, you can search by industry, by company, by major, by location. And then it's a great way to, if again, if you're trying to kind of do a little industry research or you're trying to connect with someone you're looking to move into a different area, it's a great way, to just be like, hey, we're both, Bulldog alumni. I would love to connect with you to ask you a few questions about, your role or XYZ organization. So again, that's another way to kind of connect with people.
Great. Uh, could you share your thoughts maybe on the ethical considerations surrounding the use of AI in the hiring and job application process?
Yeah.
I
The
think you heard that, Molly.
ethical considerations for using AI in the job process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you
Um,
touched on it a bit, but
yeah, a little, yeah, definitely to some degree. In terms of right, not wanting to maybe oversell what skills you have or yeah, misrepresent your the experiences that you've had that AI might interpret my job title one way, and maybe that the actuality of what I did on the day to day and the skills I developed don't actually align with that. If you're just using it to fully write your things. So yes, and then also. I know that there have been times where, um, I mean, AI, there it's drawing on whatever's out there publicly available on the internet, right? So, uh, it might use a source that now it's play in some way, like it's plagiarizing someone, and now I'm plagiarizing someone um by using it the way that it the, the same way that without me editing that sort of thing. So not maybe knowing where your sources come from or kind of plagiarizing in a different way.
great. Um, are there any ways for a job hunter to use AI to combat age discrimination in searching for jobs?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, okay. Again, I feel like you are going to be hired based on your skills, your experience, the value that you bring to an organization. So in terms of I think that's where like we would be happy to work one-on-one with someone to kind of take a little bit deeper dive into that. But thinking about LinkedIn, having a current photo on there, that's maybe more a professional one that was done, in terms of, and then keeping current on your skills, any certifications or any um, you know things that again show the currentness of your organization, I think are kind of nice to keep up on that. And again, if you have a lot of experience to bring in XYZ, that's a good thing, right? Like it's a good thing to bring but maybe you don't want to list every single position you've had since you were 16 on your LinkedIn profile or on your resume. That's where I think sometimes people um, like I want to tell everybody everything that I did. And it's really a matter of sort of picking and choosing more like what's relevant to whatever it is that you're applying for, and then just sort of selecting from all of that wonderful experience that you have to highlight that on your resume or LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think that wraps up our questions. Thank you again to Sue and Molly for this really interesting presentation. Um, Again, this webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our Alumni Relations YouTube channel. It'll also be emailed out to all of you who attended today. And thank you everyone who attended. We hope to see you at future alumni events and hopefully some more career center events as well. And yeah, thanks again and have a great day.